Of the 800 UK nationals who travelled to fight for so-called Islamic State, 4 brutal killers, dubbed the Beatles because of their British accents, were the most notorious.
Now, one of them, a militant nicknamed Jihadi John, was killed in a drone strike in 2015. Another was jailed in Turkey last year. Now, the remaining 2 have been captured by Kurdish fighters. We can talk more about this with Dr. Shiraz Maher from the International Centre for the Study of Radicalisation. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. What do you know about the capture of these 2 British men?
Well, I think their capture is highly significant because the Beatles were, of course, a wanted group. They had been known to have held a number of Western hostages and known to have also been incredibly brutal to those they had in their captivity. These men who were beheaded ultimately by IS had been held actually before that for quite a protracted period of time and had been subjected to the most vicious kinds of torture by these people. So the fact that these 2 individuals have now been caught will be very significant, and of course they will have a lot of intelligence that I think a lot of people will want to get to know about.
What does the future hold for them in terms of if they'll be trialled, where they'll be questioned?
Well, there's a bit of a legal grey hole right now. A number of Western and British foreign fighters who had travelled out there and joined Islamic State have been captured by the Kurds in some instances, have been captured by the Free Syrian Army in others. Those on the Iraqi side have tended to be passed over into state custody on that side of the border. So I think there are some reports emerging at least that these 2 individuals will have been transferred into US military custody. If they are, then I think you could expect to see them stand trial at some date in the future.
I suppose what a lot of this comes down to in terms of the questioning is just how cooperative they will be. I mean, is there any history of captured jihadists being cooperative with authorities?
I think you do find that. Look, not all of them will talk, but increasingly with a number of IS individuals who have been captured, who have been detained, you are seeing them express remorse about what they've done, and as a result of that, really opening up to their captors. That's happened in a number of cases. It's hard to know with these 2 individuals quite how hardened they are and quite how committed they remain to the ideology that they were once following, but I think time will tell as to whether they will give up a lot of their secrets.
What's the situation regarding the group they were in terms of the atrocities or things that they've been involved in?
Well, it's important to note that, of course, Islamic State captured the world's attention, really, when it became a proto-state, when it governed large parts of Syria and Iraq. Of course, the Western-led military campaign against them has resulted in that aspect of the group being pushed back. But that's not the be-all and end-all of what a group like Islamic State really is. It emerged originally as an insurgency, principally operating across Syria and Iraq, and it exists also as a terrorist movement, which is, of course, how we in the West encounter it as well. So we've managed to diminish and push back one aspect of its identity, that's the proto-state aspect, but really it's gone back to its insurgent roots, it's pulled back to the deserts. We know it's still operating across parts of Syria and Iraq, closer to the border, and it will live to fight another day with those who remain in its clutches at the moment.
But in what form and in terms of, and with how much strength? Because in Syria, most are saying Islamic State has effectively been beaten, for example.
Well, I think beaten is overstating the case. I would certainly counsel against popping the champagne at this moment in time. The estimates of where Islamic State is, the US government said it may be down to about 3,000 hardened fighters. Now, that may not sound like quite a lot, given, of course, what it was at its high watermark of tens of thousands of fighters. But it's worth noting, of course, the roots of this organization came off the back of Al-Qaeda in Iraq after the 2003 invasion. At that point, before it pushed into Syria and grew into this Leviathan that we all know, it was only estimated to have had about 1,000 fighters. So you're still looking at 3 times the number in its core today than those who emerged in the first place.
Dr. Shiraz Maher, thank you very much for talking to us on Breakfast this morning.